JStreet, you might be asking yourself, what is that? JStreet was established nearly a decade ago to be the, quote, pro-Israel, quote, peace voice in Washington. The lobby group pushes for American leadership on finding a two-state solution to the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It takes a liberal stance on a number of foreign policy issues facing U.S. and Israel. Now, though the more right-leaning AIPAC, that is better known, the AIPAC conference, for example, held just weeks ago, attracted presidential candidates from both parties and nearly 20,000 people, the JStreet Gala was planned as a smaller event, played host to both Secretary of State John Kerry and Vice President Joe Biden. Let's hear what both had to say a few hours ago, actually several hours ago, in the United States in that JStreet conference. That's Joe Biden and John Kerry. Let's hear them.
We have an overwhelming obligation, notwithstanding our sometimes overwhelming frustration with the Israeli government. We have an obligation to push them as hard as we can toward what they know in their gut is the only ultimate solution, a two-state solution. At the same time, be a guarantor, an absolute guarantor of their security.
That is why JStreet was, in the end, despite all the difficulties, and we all know how difficult it was, why you were such a strong and vocal advocate for the Iran nuclear agreement. The politics may have been complicated, but all of the noise of last summer could never obscure the critical fact, the undeniable fact. JCPOA, as it's known, remains by far the best way to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon.
Now, with me in studio, thank God, I still have I24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev, Ami Kaufman, of course, I24 News contributor, and we're going to put you all right on the spot. With us also, JStreet organizer on the ground here in Israel, Daniela Tolchinsky. Good morning to you. Let's go straight to D.C., though, now after I introduce everybody. Times of Israel, Washington, D.C. correspondent Rebecca Shimoni-Stoll. Rebecca, that show of support to JStreet by the likes of people who are in the administration right now, Joe Biden, John Kerry, what is it spelling out to the administration in Israel?
Well, good morning. First of all, it was certainly a very strong show of support, the highest kind of ticket that they've received at their annual gala thus far. It obviously shows the administration's support for JStreet's agenda. The administration has been very close with JStreet, increasingly so over the years. And in fact, the JStreet College movement was at the White House earlier this week, I think on Friday. So there has been a lot of a show of support for JStreet, for the two-state agenda. And also, not just for JStreet's attitude toward the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but also a lot of gratitude on the part of administration officials to JStreet for, as they say in Washington, carrying the water on the Iranian nuclear deal, something that both Biden and Kerry highlighted this evening. Very much so, and several times, and I'm glad you pointed that one out. Rebecca, thank you for joining us on this late hour. With us in studio, well, actually, I'm going to start with Tal Shalev. Tal Shalev, I24's diplomatic correspondent, highlighting the Iran deal very, very, very much, and talking about Israel as if trying to create a different path away from the administration in Israel.
Well, I think, first of all, we saw the administration and the administration representatives, and especially, I think, Joe Biden, by the way, at some kind of end-of-season feeling or atmosphere yesterday at JStreet, because Joe Biden was very, very much outspoken towards Israel's policies. These are things that we have heard in the past, but this time they were, I think, a bit more blunt. He talked about his overwhelming frustration with the Israeli government. He said that Netanyahu has been leading Israel in the wrong direction. He even addressed the young MK there, Stav Shafir, from the Zionist Union, and he said in a very undiplomatic way, one might say, that he hoped her views will once again be the majority in the Knesset. That is not necessarily the most politically correct remark to make.
It's basically saying we hope that Netanyahu is voted out of a position. Okay.
And it's true that JStreet does deserve a lot of credit from the administration regarding the Iran deal and regarding the fact that it passed through Congress. And it is true that JStreet has a very close connection with the administration administration, but we should also keep in mind that at the same time, this has cost them a lot in Israeli public opinion. The Israeli public opinion does not consider them, I think wrongly, mainly because of JStreet U, which is amazing in its popularity among young American Jews. But the Israeli government and many in the Israeli political system, not only right-wing parties, also center-wing parties like the Yair Lapid, do not consider JStreet a legitimate representative of American Jewry, and this is the game that they are trying to, that they need to play in order to have any clout back here in Israel.
Daniela, I'm putting you on the spot in that respect, because it's true that JStreet is not garnering that many friends when it comes to Israel proper. It's almost like you're affiliated with the left, one may say. Isn't that the case?
I mean, time and time again, the two-state solution has shown, demonstrated massive support across the entire Israeli political spectrum, as well as by the vast majority of American Jewry. And JStreet came about to really be the voice of support to folks in power for the majority of the population, both here as well as back in the States.
But the two-state solution, in many ways, one can argue, if you're living here and you live here, that has become rhetoric for politicians in Israel, that it's not something that is moving forward technically on the ground in that respect.
Yeah, so in a big way, JStreet hopes to create the political space for leaders to be able to take that risk and actually put action behind that value. That's a huge reason why we're there. And we're here to play that role. And I think Joe Biden and John Kerry coming to speak at the Gala last night is an exciting show of support for American diplomatic leadership in that regard.
But Ami, I want to ask Ami something, because this is happening also on Tuesday. I mean, this is happening a day before Tuesday, before the primaries. It's just showing something also to the American Jewry of New York, a very powerful voice, isn't it?
I suppose it is. I don't know if it's going to have any real influence on the outcome. I can't really say exactly what kind of influence it's going to have, to be honest.
The show of support at the end of times, yes.
But I also think that just JStreet as a phenomena shows how huge the gap between Israel and between the Israeli government and the progressive audience in the United States has grown in recent years. Netanyahu has grown very close to Republican audiences and Republican constituents, but on the progressive side, millennials, Hispanics, people who vote for the Democratic Party, support for Israel is diminishing, and support for the two-state solution, even if this is not the Israeli government's position, is growing.
Growing. Tal Shalev, everybody around the table, thank you. We're going to move now to the news, but we'll be back shortly with something slightly lighter.